So in this video, I'm going to show you the example of how we can use our view multiple PLP and our view LP functions in the patient level prediction to view shiny apps of our results. So as we ran the multiple analysis last time, we saved the results to the T best model ever drive. Now I'm going to simply input that file location into the view multiple PLP function, and this will load our shiny app up. So once we've got our shiny app and we've got it on the full screen, we can see that there are various columns in this shiny app. So you can see that the first column is the analysis ID. Then you've got the development database name, the validation database name, your target cohort name, your outcome cohort name, the classifier that was trained, the TAR, so in this case ADA boost, you've got your TAR start, your TAR end, and the various performance measures. So you've got this for every analysis that was run for the multiple things. So if we order by area under the curve, we can see that the best model appears to be analysis 7. Now, if we click on this, we can actually look into more detail about the settings. So we can look at model settings for this, population settings for analysis 7, and we can look at the covariate settings. And if we go to the top tab that says performance plots, this will then give us some of the plots for showing us how well the model did in the test set. So we've got our ROC plot, our precision recall plot, our F1 score plot, our prediction score distribution, our preference score distribution, our box plot, calibration plot, and demographic plot of how well it's calibrated. And we also have our log file, so you can actually see the different cohort IDs that we used, the sizes, and how many cases we had. And then we also see, if we scroll down, we get the train and the test performance, and we get the information about where the results were saved to, which we'll be using later when we're doing the view PLP. Now if we go back to the summary table, I'm going to pick another analysis to show you, although one thing I want to point out is that you need to unselect the rows each time to select a new one for it to work. You can't select multiple rows. So if we look at analysis 7, it did 0, so why did it not run? We click on it, we can look at the log and see what the log tells us. So the log says that there's only 19 cases, and we actually have a restriction in PLP that you have to have at least 25 outcomes to continue. So in this case, there just wasn't a sufficient number of cases to train a model. So that's why this model did not run, and that's why we saw that some of the analyses were actually 0 performances. It's because we picked a small sample of 10,000 and some of them didn't have a sufficient size. So we can actually look at a single result. So we showed earlier that analysis 7 did the best, so let's use the patient level prediction load PLP result to load that, and that will get set into our results object, and then that can be inserted into the view PLP function of the patient level prediction to give us the single deep dive into analysis 7. So you can see this is the view PLP that you can use for a single model. Now if we run this will open up another shiny app. And so zooming into this single view PLP, we get the test performance and the train performance for the model, for the various metrics, and then we can look at the characterization. So this is going to be a plot of how often a covariate occurred in patients without the outcome in the X and with patients with the outcome in the Y. So anything that's off the X equals Y means it was more common in those with or without the outcome. Anything on the line means that it doesn't discriminate singly between those with or without the outcome. And there's also a table view of this. We've got the red means that it wasn't selected, and the blue means it was selected as a covariate in the prediction model. Let's look at the table view. So the table gives you the same information, but rather than the plot a table. Now if we click over to the ROC, we get our test performance ROC and our train performance ROC. And we can also look at the calibration, and the calibration is going to give us our test performance calibration plot and our train performance calibration plot. Then the demographic tells us how well calibrated our model is for each age and gender group for the test and for the train. We can actually see here the observed is the red and the predicted is the blue. They actually are deviating. This is most likely just because we took a sample of our target population, so we actually had a very small data set to try and learn the model, so it hasn't learned these trends. You can see that it generates younger people seem to have a higher observed risk, but the prediction isn't actually identifying this. And then we've got the same for the train set. Then we can have a look at our preference plots. So this is just giving you the distribution of the predicted risks. That hasn't really shown much in this one. And then we get the box plot. So this tells us the distribution of the predicted risks for those with the outcome, which is the greeny blue, and those without the outcome, which is the red. And we have this for the test and train. And then finally we've got our settings. So this gives you the model that was chosen. You've got the final settings that were selected for the final model, the prior variance. And then you've got the population settings, and you've got the covariate settings. There's also an attrition table, and the attrition table tells you how many people were used in the training set. So we actually only had 8,000 people, which is why the model didn't do too well, because we took a sample and then some people got filtered out. So this is the single PLP. If you click on the external validation, if you had externally validated the study, this will be populated if you input it. So I'm just going to show you how you'd input the external validation. So there's actually this validate PLP, which you can just make set to your external validation result. So if we assume that validation results was some external validation result that you'd run previously, then you can load that in and you'd get the validation results in your Shiny app. So that's the final view PLP in the Shiny.